Hi, guys.
We created as a district team a request to Scott Marshall, and we said we would like to focus on the following projects, which are listed by priority. And you can see them listed there. One is electricity, two is HVAC, three bathrooms, four cafeteria, five shop windows, and then classrooms, office space. Because we really needed Scott to take his team and say, okay, what truly can we afford and what things are connected to the other thing? Like you can't do one thing without doing another thing first, like electricity. We have to take care of the electricity. That's just one of those foundational things. So this was the memo we sent to him. And then he went through and responded with, there's a memo there dated April 12th from Scott to me. And this was his comeback. And this memo is really what we're going to be focusing on tonight is how he outlined these priority projects. And I'll have him kind of take us through the details of these. But very briefly, you can see priority projects. We have 1, 2, and 4. That's just how he numbered those. And then you have estimated cost on the far right. But priority project 1 is power service upgrade, new panel room and hallway. Those go right together. Are you seeing the right memo there? It's the one from Scott to me.
Oh, right here.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And then second is HVAC upgrade at classrooms and the gymnasium. And that's really attached to our boiler room problem. We have a very serious boiler issue. And then 4 is if we're going to do anything with the cafeteria and kitchen, we're going to have to take care of the abatement for the boiler room. And we do have some asbestos in there that we have to abate. And you can see, again, the estimated cost there. Then it's really exciting because we can work right into the cafeteria and kitchen repurpose. I have great plans for that. Once we have that repurposed, then we can actually start running our own food service program. Because right now we partner with Corvallis, and they're doing us right. They're but it'd be nice to have our own because we're not benefiting from the many grants and federal assistance and things of that nature. It'd be nice to be more self-sufficient in that regards. So that's going to really be exciting. Plus, it'll be a space that the community can definitely use. Like, for instance, we just hosted a ESD staff ice cream social the other night. It was on the stage just right out here, which is fine. But it'd be nice to have a kitchen facility and a cafeteria attached to that, also for the kids. And then a really exciting thing, which I can't wait for Scott to show you guys, is all the drawings and the renditions of the new Voc or the CTE shop. That is really exciting. So those costs, plus the soft costs, come to about $4.34 million. We have, because we've already spent some money on the bathrooms, we have $3.93 million available. We're going to have to make up that difference somehow. But again, those figures are soft at this point because we don't know exactly what they're going to come in at. Is the power service upgrade truly going to cost $500,000? Maybe it'll cost $600,000, or hopefully only $400,000. We'll just have to work through this, but at least we have a priority list we can work through and have that target and get the best value for our dollars for the community. The alternative projects would be number 3, which is metal building toilet repurpose, 5, which is select window replacement, 6, new classroom building, and old kitchen into classrooms. That would be another $1.45 million. And unless somebody wins the lottery, it might be kind of difficult to come up with those dollars. If I win the lottery, I promise you I will donate some to this project. But I have to buy a ticket first. Yeah, that's what my wife says. Well, you got to buy a ticket if you're going to win. So anyway, this really has helped giving us some direction. Scott and I and Keenan have been working really hard on permitting. I just had a meeting with one of the county commissioners the other night, and it went really, really good. We're doing a lot of relationship building there, and we have some permits that have been released and are coming our way, because we do have a certain period of time we have to be spending the dollars. So the other document I'm going to cause attention to right now is this one, also dated 4/12, that I authored to the board of directors just as an update. And that kind of just gives an overall update of where we're at with the project. You know, again, I'm going to tout the state matching grant. Man, without that, we would be able to do just a couple of things, and that's about it. But with the state matching grant, that's a really, really huge benefit for us. But we're also under a time crunch. Number 2, there's a state law requires 80% available funds be spent within 36 months of the sale of the bonds. The sale of the bonds, from now what we can tell, was last April, I do believe. And so, you know, we're a year into it. And so that means we've got to get some groundbreaking going. We just do. And that's also the conversation I had with the commissioner in terms of, you know, I understand that, you know, it's tough to get permits going and they're understaffed, and as everybody is, but my goodness, we owe it to be responsible to the voters, and because the voters have spoken, we need to get this project rolling. Let's see, number 4, I've already talked to you about. 5, I showed you the response. 6, that's where we're at right now. Is we're convening the bond oversight committee for further input, ideas, and support. I'm really hoping at the end of the presentation tonight that the bond oversight committee will definitely help us and support us in where we're heading. But don't be afraid to ask questions. You know, that's what we're here for. And Scott will be able to answer a lot of the detailed questions, or between Keenan and I, we can also answer a lot of your questions that you might have. I want to make sure that you guys feel confident with this. It's important to me that we have your support and we work as a team on this. I think it's important to demonstrate that to our board of directors. And I think it's also important we demonstrate that unity to our community. So really the priority list will need the board of directors approval. And I'm hoping to do that at the May 12th meeting. And I would love for any and all of you to be present to help me with that presentation. That would just be great. And Scott will be there too, joining us. I think he'll be in person. And, but it's really the board of directors that would approve this list that came back, this memo that came back from Scott prioritizing the projects. I did reach out to LBL ESD for additional support with the bond project, and that was how they secured, they did, not me. They secured David McKay from HMK Construction as a temporary independent third-party advisor. Again, temporary. It's just there to kind of lend another set of eyes. You know, he's been through this process before, and he's very dedicated to helping us to make sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's and doing right by the voters and doing right by the state law. Let's see. And communication will be a priority emphasis throughout this. So I'm hoping to work with you a lot in that communication. I think we need to be posting stuff to the part of the website that we have for the bond and making sure the voters are updated and the community can look at this stuff. But I'm really excited about where we're at right now. I really feel good. And once we went through this as an admin team the other day with Scott, you should have heard the laughing and giggles, because the CTE, the Revoke Center, is just going to be absolutely amazing to us. And what an opportunity for education for our kids. What an opportunity. And we should be a pride and joy of this community. Really should. I only know of a couple other school districts that have something similar to what we're going to be building with this Voc Center. Bend Lapine is one of them. And Bend Lapine School District is multiple high schools, and Bend High actually put in a 2-story facility, twice as large as what we're going to be building. As soon as they put it in and got it functional, they were just deluged with transfer requests from all the high schools in Bend. All the kids wanted to come and take part of that CTE center because they had welding, automotive, woods, technical, graphic design, drafting, CAD, you name it. They had everything there. And suddenly Bend High School was just being overwhelmed with students. That's how popular it is. Salem Kaiser has a similar center that it's not too far away. If you happen to be tootling through town, might stop and take a look, because that's also a really, really vibrant program. Bottom line is kids love CTE programs. They really do. And we have so many kids that are tactily oriented. They want to do things with their hands. And there's excellent careers out there for people like that. And we want to make sure that we give them the tools they need to get started in that direction, if that is of their interest. So, Scott, do we have you now?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Can you turn up the volume a little bit, Nathan? All right, let's get the volume so we get you here.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Keep going. Okay, now try, Scott.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Okay, we can hear you now.
All right.
All right. So, you heard my little presentation of spiel. I'm going to turn it over to you for all the shock and awe.
Okay. Appreciate the introduction. I won't revisit kind of like where we're at. So basically, I was asked to put together kind of a very streamlined priority based upon what everybody considered what the most important relevant things are that actually has to happen in order for next step projects to occur. And so the power service upgrade and the new panel room and hallway need to happen first. Right now, the building power, as everybody knows, is overtaxed. When we roll over to replacing the heating and cooling systems, it will go electric, get rid of the diesel fuel oil, and there'll be more of a need for that. Hence the power service upgrade portion. The other portion is the new panel room and hallway. That project serves as interconnection between the existing main school and the existing wood shop. It also has a room that has all of the new power equipment, the generator transfer switch, the new service. By doing that, we don't have to be off of line for very long. They can install all of the new infrastructure under the power upgrade project. And then when that's all completed, basically we just, regardless of what happens on any project, those are the two things that we absolutely need to do. The next step, or the priority project 2, would be the heating and cooling. And that's just based off of the existing boiler being so old and antiquated.
Okay, Scott.
Yeah.
60 seconds. Can you kind of repeat what you were about 60 seconds ago?
Yeah, you bet. So we need to do the power service upgrade in the new panel room, regardless of whatever project we decide. That's priority number 1. Priority number 2 is the heating and cooling. The existing boiler is old. And we need to have priority number 1 done before we can go to priority number 2. We can't do 2 without 1. The third priority is the cafeteria, kitchen, and VOC shop. And out of those 3 things, the shop needs to happen because the existing shop is in the space where the new cafeteria is going to be. And the heating and cooling upgrade needs to happen because that's where the new kitchen will be. So out of the cafeteria, kitchen, and VOC shop, the next project would be the VOC shop. That would give the school district latitude to have the existing shop and classroom and boiler spaces empty at the worst case scenario. At the best case scenario, those spaces will be delivered and developed into the kitchen and cafeteria. So I guess the order of operation here would be power service, upgrade, panel room, HVAC, VOC shop, kitchen and cafeteria. Now, by the time that we kind of approach those, that's that 4.34 million that we've talked about. So just looking at this and streamlining it and saying, okay, now that we actually have real numbers and we really understand where we're coming from, that seems like the most efficient course of action. That's going to give us the things that the district actually, really needs to have, the infrastructure things. And it will also give us some things that that we need. I mean, there is no cafeteria. The kitchen's a serving kitchen. So those are kind of the low-hanging fruit that we can pick from.
I must add, in terms of HVAC, when a teacher's teaching in the classroom, if kids are too hot, they fall asleep. If they're too cold, then they get cold and shiver, and it's a distraction. It also, if you don't have proper HVAC and air circulation, it could cause illnesses, especially as we're dealing with post-COVID and, just flus and colds. So HVAC is a very, very important component for any kind of teaching space where you have teachers teaching and students learning. And there's a lot of research that's attached to that in terms of maintaining a healthy environment. Also, oxygen levels is important. When an oxygen level is if you walk into a room and it feels all steamy and kind of musty and stale air, that could mean you have low oxygen levels potentially in that space. That also affects brain activity. And question?
Yes, we had talked about there being federal COVID funds still. I mean, it was a hot topic of that,
Yes.
Those funds potentially being lost.
Yes.
Are those funds still available to help offset HVAC costs?
Thank you for
Because it's
asking that.
COVID related.
Yes. So yes, because of stuff that happened, Colt Gill, the state superintendent of public instruction, pulled the ESSER funds, which are federal funds for COVID relief. But after I came on board and I had some long chats with him, he re-released them back to the district. And there are certain components of those ESSER funds that we can apply to help offset the cost of the HVAC. I don't have figures in front of me right now to tell you how much, but we know we can reach to that to help out. Overall, the ESSER grant dollars that were re-released are around 300,000, if I remember right. So I don't think we can apply all that 300,000 because they've partitioned it out. Some of it you have to spend in certain areas, but I do know that air quality is one of those areas that it does qualify under those ESSER funds. Good question.
I have a question too, though, about efficiency, because our windows in this school are so bad. So when we get this new system, heating and cooling, I mean, how efficient is it going to be with such terrible windows?
Keenan, you want to take a poke at that?
It's not going to be good, is it, Keenan?
No, it's not. It's a start because the weather, the current weather we have is.
It has
They
no
don't
problem.
make parts for anymore, the pump we have on the ground is on this side, which is- Because it's been a pump, so it's a pump. As far as the window go, I think that's going to have to be. To the district fence at some point, where it's just a classroom a year. Hopefully they school district or something else.
I would agree. And there's potentially some energy grants we could be looking at also to help offset the costs.
Any windows will get, we will have a certain amount of.
Yes, yes.
There's also mitigation stuff that you can do before, well, way back in the day before double pane windows were the norm.
Mhm.
We used to buy this 3M film and put it on, and it made on a single family home, it made a
Mhm.
big difference.
Mhm.
I can only imagine what it would do here.
Mhm.
Be very maintenance intensive,
Mhm.
but
Right.
For a short term thing.
For short
Yeah.
term.
for short term.
Yeah.
I'd say you could probably do it for a year or two.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of as a Band-Aid
Mhm.
in the meantime. But you're right. I mean, when windows are inefficient, then the kid sitting next to the window is going to feel that chill from
Mhm.
the air. You're going to have temperature variations throughout the room,
Besides
versus-
that cost.
Yeah. It's gonna
Besides
be hard
that,
to maintain your.
cost of the energy.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. But yes, I would say even though you have this list of alternate projects, it doesn't mean that we're going to be abandoning these.
Mhm.
Especially when you're talking window replacement of 65,000. We could, take some chunks out of that. Maybe in 2 or 3 years, we'd have it all done. I think you had a question.
Oh, excuse me, George.
What makes the, what is the criteria for? What window? I haven't heard the word safety in the window. So if they're not tempered, they can replace others. Anytime we replace it. Absolutely. But this 65,000, is that count? That would bring all the windows up to tempered. I think that's Scott.
Scott?
Scott, do you hear that question?
I heard portions of it. Can you just,
George is asking, the 65,000 you have allotted for the select window replacement, does that cover all the windows that need replaced in the school, or is that selected?
so the selected ones would be the south facing windows?
So it's more of an efficiency, not a safety.
Honestly, they all need, from an efficiency standpoint, they all need to be replaced. However, that project, I mean, that's something that's easily done in phases or in portions, because they're all in, each opening is independent from one another. Meaning that if you had a maintenance budget, you could go in and do that. I listed the select window replacement as the southern facing windows because the heat gain that you would gain when it's hot is more environmentally impactful than them having a breeze or not being energy efficient when it's cold. The existing heating system in the building now is a boiler. And so it's a radiant system. So, it circulates through the radiators in the room, and then it relies on convection for air circulation. They're placed by the windows because that's where it's most impactful. And it kind of cuts that initial chill off. The new system would actually have basically a a mini split, which has a fan and circulates the air more efficiently. And so the overall comfort in the room would be improved. Now it's true that because of the inefficiency of the windows, that unit might run all the time, and the temperature variation between the highs and the cools might be greater. But even if there's no window replacement, there will be a big improvement. And so I guess to answer your question, select window placement is the southern facing windows, which will be the most impactful to the temperature variance in the school. That doesn't include all of them.
Thanks, Scott. You did answer my question there, but common bond is also, I'd like to include the concept of safety in this.
Yeah,
Different windows up high.
Yeah.
I can see windows that are 12 feet off the ground right there. And
Yeah.
They were slammed. And so when you're prioritizing the projects, I'm not saying I'm disorder, I'm just
Sure.
saying that they need to be discussed. We efficiencies.
as a safety. I think I hear you.
My thought is that that's probably a requirement.
It very well could be, so if we're looking at making our school nicer, the boiler's a great idea. I'm not gonna argue that a bit.
Yeah.
Same one where I was here. And I don't know how many days historically we've lost in school because of that.
Yeah.
Dinosaur. But,
Yeah.
I just haven't heard the word safety in one of those. I just like you guys to consider that too when you're making decisions. Like, you make a really nice wood shop and scale it back a little bit.
Was any of that mentioned in the permit application process? Those kinds of requirements?
Definitely.
Once a window breaks,
Have to replace.
place.
I just know personal residential experience, when we pulled permits, there were other different ordinances that we had to then become compliant with that were completely non-related with the project we were doing. Yeah, so I was just curious if anything like that came up, like, for example, when we replaced a house, we all of a sudden met this dust-free ordinance and permit requirement for paving driveways. Has nothing to do with the house, but in order to be compliant for the permit, we had to have that in our plan. So I didn't know if it would come up in anything that we pulled permits for, that, oh, you're doing a building permit, your windows aren't to code, those have to be done.
That's the last of the thoughts.
Yeah.
So has anybody looked at that? Because that could be a big hit on the budget.
Yeah, so the way that the building code works, the building code basically gets progressively more stringent regarding like structural requirements and energy requirements. The Oregon Energy Code is one of the most restrictive in the country right now. It's a ASHRAE 90.1. However, it's understood by the people that write the OSSC that they can't, the way it works is if you touch a certain in a remodel situation or an improvement situation like we're in, if you touch or replace a certain building element, then that building element needs to be to code standard. So if we do replace the windows, you're right, we do have a requirement to meet a certain energy standard on the windows that we replace. However, the code cannot say, well, since you're putting in a heating and cooling system, you have to upgrade the entire building envelope. Because that would, every time a code changed and every time somebody wanted to do anything, they would be upgrading their entire building constantly because the code replaces every year. And they don't adopt the new code every year. Maybe it's usually every 2 or 3. So the building elements that we choose to modify have to meet the building code. If it's an existing element, basically it's grandfathered in until it's replaced.
But you guys are in Lane County, aren't you?
This was in Benton
This
County.
was in
Oh,
Yeah, so we couldn't come in and put a super inefficient heating and cooling system in. We couldn't say, well, it's as good as a 1938 or 1954 heating system. We'd be like, no, it has to be this efficiency. Everything else can maintain until you touch it.
Thank you.
You bet.
So Scott, could you take us through the renditions of the new Voc Center?
Yeah. Did you guys get the, I said a link. We did a little fly around animation so that lots of times, a picture is 1,000 words and then a video is worth 1,000 pictures kind of a thing. Is that something you guys could pull up or are you not?
Yep.
Up and ready to go.
It's up and ready to go. Ready to push play.
George.
Okay. Go for it.
Oh, it was such a good country western tune.
Really can send you all the link for it.
But if you notice on the left, there's the open area.
Mhm.
Yeah, is that future possibility of enclosing and make it functional
Yes.
for?
And Mr. Crow already has plans to use it as open air, like a potential portable sawmill and things of that nature to be undercover, but it doesn't necessarily need to be inside. And so how that open area will be used and restructured in the future, we don't know yet. I think it's too soon to tell, but it gives us lots of flexibility in terms of what we can do with that as the programs grow and develop. Good question.
Is 3,500 square feet?
3,500?
Yeah, so the design approach to this building, this is like the third iteration. And we are really trying to be sensitive to the budget. And basically the one side has the technology classroom and the metal shop, which is roughly the same size as the space that's being occupied right now in the existing location of the school. The other side is I have a preliminary layout for another like a forestry classroom or some other sort of vocational classroom, and then a wood shop. The mechanical systems are located in a mechanical platform above the center core section of the building. To keep everything out of the elements and to provide, good access to changing filters and those sorts of things. And so what this does initially is it provides storage or really flexible use that's covered because that's a relatively inexpensive thing to address initially, but a more expensive thing to address as you go forward. So infilling the enclosed space can easily be done because all of the infrastructure will be there already. There'll be space for the new units. There'll be adequate power. All of the exterior doors that I'm showing along the interior side will interconnect into potential new spaces. The foundation's there, the roof's there. So it will meet a need for what the storage areas are needed now, but can incorporate, existing functions as it grows. Part of the reason we did that is because we were being sensitive towards the budget so that we could do other phases of work. The way that the layout is it's a really efficient. It's a really simple structure, pitched roof, metal siding, wood trusses, wood framed. Really straightforward, but it will have all of the programming elements in the building to accommodate what the teacher's curriculum is, as far as what we understand it is it to be now.
George?
Scott, I have a question. What is your process, or what is your, how do you address the fire code issues on this? Have you been in contact with the fire marshal's office, or how, most of the time this is done at the local level, but this is kind of a big project for local level?
Yeah, we had a during our initial planning and zoning effort, we had a meeting with all of the head honchos of the planning and zoning and the water and sewer and the fire and the building department and all those. If your building is 20 feet away from basically an existing structure, the way the fire code looks at it is it looks at it as its own individual building. And the way that you determine what the fire requirements are is you determine what the occupancy rating is, which this would be an E for education. And then you look at the building typology, which is it a non-rated construction? Is it a 1 hour rated construction? And then that pushes you into what kind of fire assemblies you need to build. So I was really careful to make this building just small enough to be under the non-rated construction typology, which is the cheapest construction typology, not requiring fire sprinklers. And it will have its own fire alarm system in it. Some of the other things that you need to do in the design, if you look at the floor plan, there's individual exits out of each classroom in the metal shop. You can get, you can deal with your egress requirement, meaning the code cares how far you have to travel until you can get out of the building. So the way that this is laid out now, and the way that it could be further developed to include a wood shop and a forestry classroom will comply with what the current fire code requirements are.
So, thank you.
I think one of the neat features of this is the paint booth. Those aren't cheap to install, and to have a paint booth available for kids to use with proper air handling and safety requirements is huge, especially as you're working with metals and things that rust. Being able to use that paint booth to complete your projects. I've been involved in other paint booth projects throughout the state, and it's not an easy thing to do. So this is the time to build it.
Well, and avenues this will open for students to be invested in their district and help make improvements with boards they may mill or
Yes.
things that they can make to support new classrooms and stuff. It's going to open lots of amazing.
Lots. Yeah.
Yeah, and the location of the paint booth right now will basically accommodate direct access from the metal shop. But when the wood shop's developed, it will also have direct access off the wood shop. So that paint booth can be used for either vocational classroom. So yeah, we really tried to be efficient. Like, every square foot counts. Every square foot, is an added expense. So yeah, the paint booth is a really cool thing. It's a pre-manufactured unit. It has built-in air evacuation and filters, has built-in lighting. I've used it on another project previous to this. Lots of times you run into problems with the fire marshal with paint booths because of the potential for flammability with the fumes. This one has everything built in. It's a standalone unit. It's UL listed. It's a great little unit.
So Scott, what are all the different sizes of each one of these partitions in this building approximately? Can you,
When you say sizes of
like, what
partitions,
is the size of that paint booth? I don't, yeah,
6 by 3.
The paint booth is, Cheryl, the paint booth is just that one little thing in the corner there.
The E6.
oh, the
Yeah.
E6, okay. I
The
was
rest of it's
looking
just
at
the
the,
room.
I see this paint in the middle and I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
that whole room.
Right.
It's a paint room,
It's a
Right.
but
paint
the
room.
paint booth and the air handling is in the lower left corner.
Okay. Do we have a legend for all these,
Yeah, I was wondering that same thing.
for all of these diagrams?
Yeah, the drawings are done. The set has about 78 sheets in it. And I just gave you this because there's not a lot of gobbledygook all over it and it's easy to understand, but I can get you a key. I can walk through what the things are in the metal shop if you'd like. On the left-hand side of the metal shop, which is the E1 and the E8, those are individual welding booths. The E8 notation is a wall-mounted self-venting fume extractor that has an arm on it. So if you're in one of those welding booths and you're welding, the arm has basically has a articulated bracket on it, and you can put the air intake right where you're welding and it will suck it up and then put it through the unit and it will filter it out and clean the air. One of the reasons that we do that is because it's more sensitive to the exterior environment. When you start pushing all that kind of stuff outside, the EPA gets involved and it kind of gets sticky. So, and they're easily replaceable. So that's what those are. The E4 is the existing plasma cutting table that you guys have. There'll be a new hood there with a self-ventilating system on it. The F1 and the F2 are work tables with project storage lockers below and vices on, mounted on the tabletops. E2 are grinders. E5 are individual welding carts to house welding equipment that the shop teacher is going to use for his curriculum. If you look down from the E5 portion, there is a eye wash station there in case one of the kids gets some metal in their eyes. There's a wall mounted, a really good eye wash station there, as well as some cabinetry. And then on the very top portion of that, there's an overhead door that can be utilized for pulling larger projects in and out. And then there's a space for that. The office area is for the teacher or teachers. And you know that notice there's two doors. There's one that's going to the metal shop and the other one's going into the covered enclosed storage area. That door that goes into the covered enclosed storage would be going into the wood shop. So if there was ever an instance where there were one teacher having to teach two classes, there's an interconnection, a direct interconnection there. The storage 111, which is off of the office space, is a storage for materials that have a high valuation that want to be monitored by the teacher. and not open directly to the students. Like 3D printing media, saw blades, anything that needs to be monitored. And then there's the 2 toilets that are adequate for the number of occupants in these two classrooms. When the other site's developed, there's a space for a 3rd toilet, and there's plumbing connections in the plans to basically roughed in for that. Then we have a janitor's area, and off the wash 106, there's a utility sink for washing off, larger projects or hands or whatever we need to do there. One of the cooler things is the design lab. That's directly driven off of curriculum of the design classroom. On the right-hand side and on the bottom side are extra deep counters with full storage cabinets below and above. There's a separate exhaust fan in there to extinguish any fumes from some of the 3D printers they have. And it's located directly off the design classroom, so there's an interconnection there. The existing design classroom, the number of seats equals to what their design classroom is now. So we've tried to be really sensitive to address what all of the program requirements are based upon basically, being cognizant of what the budget is.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, you bet. And again, on the district has a Google Drive. The entire plans are on there. And I will be sending, they're getting printed right now by the printer. I'll be sending those to the district. So they'll have a full set of 24x36 prints there for this project.
I guess my next question is, with your permits coming along well, when do you think you're going to be able to start this project on the Vogue building?
Yeah, so what the plan of attack is to put the hallway and panel room in the vocational building out at the same time. And have them be bid along the same alignment as far as duration. That way we could realize some economy of scale, but we could also control we know how much one costs and how much the other costs. I'm going to say that we put it out for bid and we start going on it and submit for the permits. And this one is a little bit behind the others, but the progress of the other projects will probably encourage the county to expedite their review time. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, we do.
Okay, I've done that in the past. Lots of times when people are understaffed, the reactionary knee jerk is more effective than the proactionary knee jerk. I would say that the documents are completed. We bid them. There'll be a process of the contractor or CB Construction, the CMGC going through all of the bid packages, coming up with a guaranteed maximum price, sending all the subcontractor documents, getting everybody on board, creating the construction schedule. So usually bidding this kind of project is a 2 or 3 week process, and then going through and getting all of the subcontracts written is another couple weeks. So maybe 6 weeks, I could see that there'd be potential for things starting to roll on this.
Would it be possible to get a rough timeline?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we have one kind of preliminarily put together, but the timeline is dependent on whether or not the bond committee thinks that the alignment of what the projects that we're doing are the correct alignment.
Board approval.
So yeah, so that's why I'm gonna need your support tonight, and then we need to take this to the board at the May 12th meeting, so the board can officially approve it, and then that will help Scott propel things and really get things moving and moving forward.
Yeah, so the power service upgrade project we were done with that in January, and that is in the hands of Consumers Power. They've been a little slow on the uptake, but they're aligned. They're getting aligned now, and so that was the one that we wanted to get rolling first. And so, because we knew regardless of what happened, that's the project it has to happen. That project has to happen. So we prioritize that one first. The power panel room and hallway, and then this VOC building, and are going to go out next. 6 weeks, we'll be starting to roll on those, provided that that's the direction that we want to go. And the HVAC upgrades in the classrooms, we have all of our loads calced. I need to I'm trying to figure out a clever way to put those mini splits and the condensers in those existing classrooms in a modular way that is repetitive. I think I have it figured out, but we're still working through a little bit of those details, but we'll be done with those relatively quickly. So yeah, there's a lot of momentum here, and what we need is just to say, okay, yes, this makes the most sense of the direction that we want to go, so that we can pull the trigger and say, okay, yes, this is what's going to happen.
So a quick question on your HVAC system. What is your temperature designed for?
Well, that's a good question. So and correct me if I'm going to kind of tell you what I think you're asking me so everybody else knows. There is a temperature range that you design for. And so you can say, okay, when it's the coldest, what's the most acceptable cold temperature in the space? And when it's the hottest, what's the most acceptable hot temperature in the space? The tighter of tolerance between the coldest and the hottest, the more expensive the system gets. And so I know that we have a temperature tolerance that is not wide open, but we know that you can't hold 72 degrees if it's 110 out or if it's -10 out. There will be a fluctuation. I'm going to have to ask and I can get this information for you. I'll ask the mechanical engineer what that temperature variance is. I did ask him to use the biggest bang for the buck variance. So we don't want it to be too wide because we don't want to create uncomfort, but we don't want to be too narrow where the cost goes way up. So I will find out what that is and let you guys know.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? So I guess at this time, thank you very much, Scott. I think at this time, I'd like to get a motion to get a vote of support on this plan. Everybody
So
feels
moved.
comfortable? Keegan has moved, and do we have a second?
Second.
And Tom has seconded that. All in favor?
Aye.
So I guess it's been moved and seconded, and we will support your plan.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Scott.
This
I
is
mean,
really
this is,
exciting.
I think, the farthest we have ever gone at any of these meetings and
Really exciting.
understand them very clearly.
Yes.
No, and from the design team and from the construction side for Derek, it's good to know the direction we're going. So
Yes.
thank you
Yes.
guys for saying, okay, I appreciate you looking at this and saying, okay,
Yes.
that makes sense. And okay, can we go now? Can we,
Yes.
Yeah,
so,
We'll definitely direct this to our school board and hopefully, it all gets taken care of and gone through and.
Yep.
We have a plan.
yeah.
The next piece of that, what about a schedule, a VOC schedule moving forward for meetings?
Good question, because I've
Yeah.
been kind of holding off until we got to this point before we had a BOC meeting. I think May 12th, again, we'd really appreciate your support and presence there for the board presentation. And Scott, you'll be here for May 12th meeting, right?
that's correct.
So Scott will be in person. And then just to be there to support and say, yeah, we support this. And I think that's going to be important for the board of directors to hear that.
And I think the community too,
And I think the community too. Absolutely.
I
'Cause I-
think that's our biggest,
Yeah. And
biggest.
I genuinely want you guys to tell me if we're heading the wrong direction or something. I mean, that's what this is all about. This is our team.
I have a couple ideas on the welding booths, but that isn't for tonight. I'm kind of running on a timeline. I got a diabetic dog and a
Oh, that's
diabetic cat.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
insulin happens in 25 minutes
Oh, you're
Okay.
gonna
and it's a
drive.
20-minute drive.
Yeah.
Oh, my. Oh, my.
Well, thank you, Tom, for coming.
Yes.
Good evening.
Yes. Thank you. A good question about the frequency of when we should be meeting.
Well, here we are meeting the Wednesday before the next board meeting. Should
we need
we
to-
make that standard, the Wednesday prior to the monthly board meeting?
We could.
That works for me.
That works, Dave.
Okay.
I think
So
it's the
always
best
I'll make
choice.
a
That way,
motion.
if there's anything we can. go to
Do you
the-
want?
So moved.
I'll make a motion to do the Wednesday prior to the school district board meeting.
Okay, we have a
Second.
motion. Tom seconds that. and We'll have it always the Wednesday prior to our board meetings.
Okay. So do you want one before this next board meeting? Because I feel like we've
Well,
already met.
This is
That's
it.
it.
This one, and
This
so
is
the
it.
board meeting is next Friday,
Next
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 Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
So the Wednesday, the week before.
So
Oh, the
we-
Wednesday, the week
Yeah.
before, not the
Yeah.
Wednesday directly before, the
Yes.
Wednesday, the week
Yeah.
before. So we stay with this type of,
schedule.
perfect,
Does that sound good?
perfect.
I don't want to
That
cram
lets
too
us
many.
meld
in one.
everything
Yeah.
together in
Yes.
that
Right.
week between the
Yes.
meetings.
Good,
And that we can present to the board.
perfect,
the
Uh-huh.
Following week.
perfect,
Sounds good.
perfect. I like it.
All right.
So I have to bail. Sorry.
All right.
That's
thank you.
okay. We
Take care.
understand. Thank you for coming, Tom.
Do we have any other, oh, that's not my business.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes. None of my business. I forgot. How does that work? Do you have any other comments or anything that needs to be
Question?
taken care of before we close? Before I adjourn, any other comments, questions? Okay, I guess we go, Jamie, and I will,
We have to motion to adjourn?
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
okay. Awesome. So we have got our meetings all planned out, guys, so I'm excited.
Okay, good.
Next week.
The Wednesday before the board meeting
Yeah,
at 6
you're
o'clock.
here.
I'm George.
Of June? Yeah. So June June 1st. 6 o'clock?
Is that the next one?
Well, we'll see you, Scott. We'll see you next Thursday.
Thanks,
I
Scott.
appreciate you guys going through this with us, and this is exciting stuff. So it's great.
Yeah, it is. Good work, Scott. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we-
We'll talk to you
You
later.
bet.
See you next week.
Okay.
All right. See you later.
Bye bye.
Good night. Awesome. Thank you.